Hi, welcome to today's session. My name is Dr. Lauren Pilgrim. No pill makes you grin, like Dr. Pilgrim. Unfortunately, all of the services we used to offer before the pandemic were all hands-on, and we no longer feel that we have the tools adequate to keep patients safe in the charming, quaint, but tiny 700 square foot office. So we have pivoted and have adapted to our brave new world, and we are proud to announce that we are now telehealth capable and scheduling appointments via video conferencing as well as by telephone. Services we are currently offering include general medicine consultations, blood work and lab analysis, cognitive behavioral therapy sessions, nutraceutical prescriptions, supplement treatment protocols, and coming soon, clinical homeopathy. Today's topic is being mindful when your mind is full. I hope you enjoy today's topic as much as I enjoy giving it. If you please give me 1 second, I will go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Being mindful in the midst of chaos. Each one of us has a host of stresses that we deal with at home, at work, in our relationships, and in our own head. This event is a place for you to consider new ways to handle that stress in a healthy way with mindfulness, self-care, and cognitive behavioral therapy. While you've probably heard all of these terms, you may not be completely familiar with them. So before we move on, let's define them. Mindfulness is the quality or state of being conscious or aware of something. Self-care is the regulatory function which is under individual control, is deliberate, and self-initiated. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a structured, short-term, present-oriented psychotherapy directed towards solving current problems while restructuring inaccurate thinking and modifying unhelpful behavior. When it comes to being aware and in control of your mental health, mindfulness and self-care go hand in hand, and CBT can take that even further. Many of you have already started taking steps to control the way your mind reacts to chaos and difficult situations, whether consciously or not. However, it's important to learn how to be conscious of the chaos and how it affects you. Then you can take measures to mend or redirect your cognitive process. Historically, we haven't, as a society, been taught to give our mental health the attention it deserves. As a result, we've learned to sweep issues under the rug, grin and bear it through toxic relationships, and overload our schedules because we're afraid or unable to say no. Whether we're born into families with difficult people, or we find our way to them through friendships, partners, co-workers, it's challenging to know how best to respond to someone who brings negativity and unhappiness into our lives. One of the first things you can do is realize that the behaviors being presented or reflected at you are not your fault. The way that others cope with their feelings is part of their mental health and is not a reflection of who you are. Consider how differently two people might react to breaking a drinking glass. One person might throw a fit, while the other might calmly pick up the pieces and move on. Each is a reflection of the person's mental well-being and ability to cope with their own feelings. The difference is the perception of the situation. Or another way to say that might be, what does breaking the glass mean to each person in this example? There's actually a name for this. It's called the cognitive model. In fact, going further, the cognitive model proposes that dysfunctional thinking influences people's mood and behavior. If you know someone who reacts badly to something you have said or done, remember, it is the narrative inside their own head that causes them to react this way. They are literally reacting to their own thoughts rather than whatever situation has seemingly triggered the reaction. If you are the person reacting badly because of the thoughts inside your own head, please contact us. I have been practicing compassion, acceptance, and tolerance since I can remember. No matter what you are struggling with, believe me, I have either experienced it myself or I have worked with someone firsthand with that same issue. There is no topic I have not discussed with a patient over the years, from the most mundane to the most embarrassing. As a naturopathic physician and certified CBT provider, it is my job to remain impartial, analyze the information you provide, and help guide you to goals that are established collaboratively and approved by you. I am very good at this. If you feel like your emotions are controlling you rather than the other way around, please contact us. I can help. One of the most important aspects of being mindful in the midst of chaos is taking measures to eliminate as much of that chaos as possible. Oftentimes, the source of chaos and negativity comes from the people we choose to surround ourselves with. Many people these days are having a hard time dealing with being cooped up at home with their parents, with their kids, with their spouses, with themselves, because they no longer have time apart from these people as a normal course of the day. In fact, many avenues of stress busters and depression relief have been taken from us thanks to this pandemic. The mantra, "I can't change your behavior, I can only change my reaction to it," means little if you have no resources. So, if the stress is getting to you and you feel like you need more tools than the ones at your disposal, CBT and I can teach you new skills to first help you relate to your thoughts and perceptions differently so that you are able to implement the desired changes to your behavior. Not all friendships are meant to last forever, and that's fine. While you shouldn't casually discard friendships over minor arguments or inconveniences, you should grant yourself permission to move on from relationships that no longer nourish and support you. If you feel exhausted just by the idea of hanging out with someone, it's probably a sign that you should move on. One of the silver linings of the pandemic is that this may have occurred naturally as quarantine and work from home atmospheres have prevailed. But if it has not, and you are still looking for solutions to this problem, we can help provide answers, enhance problem-solving abilities, and build a new way of seeing incoming information. You have a relationship with everyone you've ever had an interaction with. That relationship can last just a moment, a lifetime, or anything in between. In each relationship, you cross paths and learn from one another. And since each of us is on a different path, you might only be walking side by side for a little while. You might also cross paths later on. As you travel through the world and encounter different people than those you grew up with, you might be tempted to compare yourselves to them. Do you find yourselves worthy or lacking? Do you see the discrepancies or similarities? Do you see the faults and imperfections or value your strengths? In order to cut down on chaos in your life, you've got to make it a priority to keep your plate filled with the right amount of work that your mental health can handle. Many times, this means learning how to say no. Sure, you might feel guilty the first few times you turn the people who ask you for favors down, but it will get easier with time. As you practice, remind yourself why you're saying no. Offer those reasons to the person if you feel comfortable doing so. And remember that by saying no, you're in turn saying yes to the things you do want to spend your time and energy on, because there's not enough time to do it all. Now that we've covered all the ways to eliminate excessive external stress and chaos in your life, I'd like to take a moment to remind you how important it is to keep people close who love and support you. For many of us, it can feel as though there is no one who fits this category. If this is the case for you, consider reaching out to a support group for people who share the same interests as you, whether in person or virtually. Any positive connections you can curate will bring peace to your mind. Now, I would like to take this time to point out that there is a pandemic currently going on worldwide. Today is 17 September 2020, and physically gathering in groups is still extremely dangerous at this time. I am certainly not encouraging this behavior. However, keeping in touch with loved ones is more important than ever. Anyone can fall down a rabbit hole inside their own minds and get lost for days, if not for the sake of a telephone. Remember, when a person feels vulnerable, unworthy, or helpless, it is hard to reach out. So if you know someone who is prone to depression, panic, or anxiety, do that person a real favor and reach out to them. Take an interest in them if you are able. You never know where this might lead. Okay, we're done talking about other people. Now let's focus on you and your space. If you've ever watched a home makeover show, you know how much a physical space can impact mental well-being. From clutter to poorly lit rooms, the spaces that you spend time in directly impact our physical and psychological health. What are 3 easy ways to make a space feel better? Ditch the clutter, add more light, and adopt a plant. Fortunately, I just hosted this very topic last session in this series. If you missed it live or would like to view it again, I will include the link to Tidy Up for Better Health tomorrow when I send out the link to today's recording. While you're refreshing your space, bring in colors, pictures, quotes, and anything else that brings you a little bit of joy when you look at it. If you're at a loss for where to start, social media can be a great asset in moments like these. When I got married, I wanted a bouquet to carry down the aisle. Problem was, I didn't know what I wanted. So John and I took ourselves over to a florist near the venue to look at the flowers to see what piqued my interest. The very helpful salesperson suggested that I create a Pinterest collection of bouquets. When I found what I wanted, all I had to do was email a picture to the florist and voila, my perfectly simple accessory on my perfectly simple day, my perfectly happy day. What am I saying? My perfectly simple accessory on my perfectly happy day. In this age of the internet, nothing is impossible. Just because you don't know what you are looking for does not mean you cannot find it or create it. One piece of advice, do not search for the whole look. Take bits and pieces from many places and make the overall outcome perfectly you. Do you find yourself frequently being judgmental towards others? If keeping up this activity in your head has gotten to be more work than it is worth, please consider CBT to reduce this load. CBT treatment is based upon understanding the person's specific beliefs and patterns of behavior to produce cognitive change. Remember, CBT is based on the cognitive model, and the cognitive model says that our perception of the situation influences the way we experience it. So if you find yourself judging others regularly and you are tired of it, a solution awaits if you are looking for it. We are our own worst critics. And after decades of bullying ourselves, obviously, our mental health takes a toll. Why do we end up talking badly to ourselves anyway? In childhood and adolescence, we begin to form core beliefs about ourselves, the world, and other people. Many people believe, for the most part, if not all of their life, that they are reasonably effective in the things that they do, as well as reasonably, innately lovable. A person with a depression or anxiety issue, on the other hand, may have believed for most of their life that they are or were unlovable, worthless, and or helpless. These core beliefs are quite painful for these people, and they will do just about anything to prevent the activation of these painful core beliefs. These take longer to access and assess and revise than our thoughts that lead to our immediate behaviors. But if you are suffering with anything along the lines of what we talked about here on this slide, the effects of CBT are long-lasting due to the modification of the underlying dysfunctional beliefs. Therefore, we are able to produce a more enduring change for the better. There are a lot of ways that we can start curating a world around us that brings positivity and pushes negativity away, but stress will still find a way to creep in. When that happens, you might want to focus on your breathing. Slow it down. Inhale for a count of 4, exhale for the count of 6, slow and steady, with a brief pause in between inhales and exhales. Exercise is great for the body, and if you want to take it an extra step to connect the body and mind, yoga is definitely something you should try. Because yoga practices focus so heavily on the breath and the movement, the whole practice turns into a kind of moving meditation, which is proven to combat stress. If yoga is not your thing, that's okay. Find something that serves as an outlet to focus your mind in the present moment that you can turn to when you're feeling stressed. Whether it's cooking, crafting, coloring, petting a cat, tending to a garden or a houseplant, taking the time in your day to bring your mind away from anxiety and back to the present moment is what mindfulness is all about. Personally, I crochet, tend to the plants, and journal when I need to take time for myself. While it's important to learn ways to cope with stress, your goal should not be to distract yourself. Instead, find ways to release your thoughts, worries, and anxieties. Mindfulness strategies are used to help people disengage from thought processes such as worry, rumination, and thought suppression, and helps people shift their attention from the internal to an external focus, which in turn further helps people accept their emotions and sensations when they arise, rather than avoiding or trying to control them. Otherwise, you might want to try writing your thoughts in a journal. Getting them out of your mind and into solid thoughts on paper will help you gain some new perspective. Make your journal what you want it to be. As long as you are able to use it to wrangle with your own thoughts, it will be a good tool. Speaking of journaling, one of the best ways to train your brain to think more positively is to practice awareness regularly. When you start to feel distracted or you realize that you are engaging in unhelpful behavior, you have an opportunity to ask yourself, what was just going through my mind? When people are in distress, often the thoughts that they are having are distorted in some way and certainly not helpful. When you are able to practice mindfulness in these times, you are able to more easily disengage in the thought process and move on to the next task at hand or to do the activity in which you are taking part. When you are able to disengage from the thought process, you are more able to recognize the positives and therefore have more gratitude. This awareness and gratitude rewires our brains so that we become more likely to focus on the positives in the world rather than the negatives. We're not going to become ignorant of danger if we appreciate the positives for a little while, but we will become more open to the good. Now, if this last sentence rankles you to the very core, please call me. This is a classic CBT behavior, and I have immediate solutions for you if you are looking for them. As we come to the end of our time together, I've saved the most important piece of advice for last. Dedicate time to learn who you really are and eventually how to love yourself. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a psychotherapy based on the cognitive model, and the cognitive model tells us that the way people perceive situations is more closely connected to their reaction than the situation itself. A major part of CBT is helping people change unhelpful thinking and behavior so that they can have an enduring impact on their mood and functioning. But we also employ problem-solving skills and tools, mindfulness exercises, and behavioral experiments in order to achieve cognitive restructuring, which will release you from the vicious cycle of anxiety, will allow you to let go of the obsessions that have taken over your life, or will grant you the ability to live in peace rather than in the despair of depression. Sometimes the best way to practice self-love is to learn how to enjoy your own company. So take yourself out to a movie or dinner if possible, a solo trip. Once you learn how to love and cherish yourself and your worth, everything else will fall into place. So as always, I will open up the screen and show you the resources that went into making today's topic webinar. And I will go ahead and leave that up for just a few minutes. I want to say thank you again to everyone who joined us today live or signed up for the recording to be sent to them. Again, my name is Dr. Lauren Pilgrim. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen now. Hopefully you all had a time to take a screenshot or jot down or pause if you're not watching live. Okay, I just wanted to say thank you again. My name is Dr. Lauren Pilgrim. No pill makes you grin, like Dr. Pilgrim. At the Center of Balance Clinic, we are offering telemedicine services for general medicine consultations, blood work analysis, cognitive behavioral therapy sessions, nutraceutical prescriptions, supplement treatment protocols, and coming soon, clinical homeopathy. Thank you again to everybody. Have a good day.